For Christmas, I gave my family a voucher for a luxury stay in a 4-star hotel in Hawaii, but my generosity backfired in the worst way possible. I thought it was the perfect gift. My parents, my sister Emma, and her husband Jake had been talking for years about wanting to go somewhere tropical but never made concrete plans. So I pooled my savings, researched the best places, and bought them a week-long stay at an oceanfront resort. First-class accommodations, spa access, everything covered. I even planned to join them for a few days, thinking it would be an amazing bonding experience. They were thrilled when they opened the envelope, at least, I thought they were. My mom teared up, my dad clapped me on the back, and Emma gushed about how generous I was. I felt like I'd done something truly good. Fast forward a couple of months, and I casually brought up the trip in our group chat, asking when they were planning to book their flights. The response? Silence. Then, finally, Emma replied, "We need to talk." Turns out, they had all decided, without telling me, that they weren't comfortable letting the voucher go to waste. So instead of using it for themselves, they regifted it. To whom? My cousin Daniel and his fiancée. Two people who, by the way, never speak to me unless they need something. I was stunned. "Why would you give it away?" I asked. Emma's excuse? Daniel and Sophie just got engaged, and they couldn't afford a honeymoon. It just felt right. Right for whom? I wasn't even consulted. My parents backed her up, saying it was a selfless thing to do and that it's the spirit of giving. Meanwhile, my hard-earned money was now funding the honeymoon of a guy who once borrowed $500 from me and never paid me back. I told them I was hurt, and my dad had the audacity to say, "You should be proud. You gave a gift that truly made a difference." No. I gave them a gift. And they gave it away like it was a free sample. The worst part? When Daniel and Sophie found out I was upset, they made a whole show about how ungrateful I was. Sophie even posted a long Facebook rant about how some people can't stand to see others happy. I ended up blocking them. And honestly, I don't think I can ever look at my family the same way again. Merry freaking Christmas. A week after the whole fiasco, I was still stewing. My parents acted like nothing had happened, Emma kept sending me random memes like we were fine, and Daniel and Sophie were busy posting about their dream honeymoon with captions like "Some blessings come when you least expect them," as if they had done anything to deserve it. I couldn't let it go. I wasn't even sure if it was about the money anymore. It was the principle. They took something meant for them, something I worked my ass off to give, and handed it to people who would never do the same for them. So, I did something petty. I called the hotel. Since I was the one who booked the stay, I still had control over the reservation. I explained the situation and, thankfully, the hotel was understanding. They allowed me to cancel and transfer the voucher to my name. Then, I booked my own trip. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell anyone. I just packed my bags, flew to Hawaii, and checked into the suite meant for them. The moment I stepped onto the balcony, looking over the ocean, I felt this rush of satisfaction. I ordered room service. I spent hours at the spa. I even took a sunset cruise, alone. And I loved every second of it. Then, 3 days into my trip, my phone blew up. Apparently, Daniel and Sophie had arrived at the hotel, expecting their free luxury stay, only to be told that the reservation was no longer in their name. The meltdown was glorious. Emma was the first to call. She started with, "Tell me you didn't." "Oh, but I did," I said, sipping a cocktail on my private balcony. She lost it. She went on about how selfish I was, how I'd humiliated them in front of their friends, and how our parents were disappointed in me. I let her rant for a full minute before I said, "You gave my gift away without asking me. So, I took it back. Simple." She was speechless. Then she screamed, "You ruined their honeymoon." I laughed. No, you did. And then I hung up. The fallout was massive. My parents called, furious. They said I was being vindictive and mean-spirited. Daniel, of course, texted me a wall of insults. Sophie posted another Facebook rant about toxic family members who think money makes them better than others. But you know what? I don't regret a thing. I spent the rest of the trip guilt-free, enjoying the vacation I had paid for. And when I got back home, I made sure to mail Daniel and Sophie a little souvenir, a cheap fridge magnet that said aloha. When I got back home, I expected my family to still be pissed. What I didn't expect was the full-scale intervention they had planned for me. I walked into my parents' house for what I thought was a regular dinner, only to find Emma, Jake, my parents, and even my aunt, who had nothing to do with this, sitting in a semicircle like I was about to be tried for war crimes. Dad started with, *, we need to talk about your behavior. *, I smirked. Oh. My behavior? Mom sighed, using that I'm disappointed but still saintly voice she loves. You embarrassed the family, sweetheart. What you did to Daniel and Sophie was cruel. I let out an actual laugh. You mean taking back my gift? The one you guys secretly decided wasn't good enough for you, so you handed it off to them? Emma scoffed. You're acting like we threw it away. We gave it to family. You're just mad because you couldn't control what we did with it. That set me off. You know what, Emma? You're right. I couldn't control what you did with it. But you also couldn't control what I did with it, could you? She turned red. My aunt shook her head like I was the problem here. Then Jake, who had been silent this whole time, cleared his throat and said something I'll never forget. Maybe next time, don't give gifts if you expect gratitude. I felt something snap. I stood up, looked around at all of them, and said, got it. No more gifts. Mom's face fell. That's not what we meant. No, I hear you loud and clear, I interrupted. You want my generosity, but only if you get to dictate how it's used. You want my money, my effort, my kindness, without having to respect me in return. Dad tried to interrupt, but I wasn't done. So let's make it easy. From now on, I won't give any of you anything. No Christmas presents, no birthday gifts, no spontaneous acts of generosity. And you know what? I feel great about it. Then I walked out. I didn't respond to texts or calls after that. Christmas came and I didn't show up. No presents, no messages, nothing. Same with birthdays. For once in my life, I wasn't bending over backward to please people who clearly didn't value me. Months later, Emma finally cracked. She texted me, *, are you seriously never getting us anything again? *, I just replied, *, hope Daniel and Sophie got you something nice. *, and then I blocked her. A full year passed. A whole cycle of birthdays, holidays, and family events that I completely skipped. No gifts, no texts, no appearances. I'd expected to feel guilty at some point, like maybe I was being too harsh. But the truth? I felt free. At first, my parents tried to play it off like I was being childish. They'd send passive-aggressive messages like, *, we saved you a seat at dinner, but I guess you're still holding a grudge. *, we didn't think you'd actually cut us off over a vacation. *, they thought I was bluffing. Then came Christmas. For the first time in forever, I spent it exactly how I wanted, on a solo trip to Japan, eating sushi in a tiny restaurant in Tokyo, watching snow fall outside. Meanwhile, back home, my absence was felt. Emma finally caved first. She called me the day after Christmas, her voice a mix of frustration and forced warmth. Okay, I think we've all had time to cool down, she started, as if this had been some mutual misunderstanding. Can we just move past this already? I wasn't going to make it easy for her. Move past what, exactly? She sighed. Look, we're family. We shouldn't be letting something this stupid ruin that. Interesting, I said. Because when I told you I was hurt, you called me selfish. When I took back my own gift, you called me cruel. But now that you're feeling the consequences, suddenly family matters again? Silence. Then she muttered, "You're being so dramatic." I laughed. "No, I'm just treating you how you treated me." Funny how that doesn't feel so good, huh? I hung up. Then came the plot twist. A few weeks later, I got a message from Jake, Emma's husband. He was always the quiet one, mostly backing up whatever she said, so I was surprised to see his name pop up. The message? "Hey, I know things have been weird, but I just wanted to say, you were right." I stared at it for a full minute before replying. About what? About Emma. About all of them, honestly. They don't appreciate anything. I see it now. I wasn't sure where he was going with this, but then he hit me with, "We're getting divorced." She doesn't know I'm texting you, but I thought you deserved to know. I did not see that coming. Apparently, my whole family's entitlement wasn't just a me problem, it was an Emma problem too. Over the past year, Jake had started realizing how much she took advantage of people, how she expected generosity but never gave it in return. My situation had been his wake-up call. We ended up talking for hours. Not just about Emma, but about the whole family dynamic, about how they always demanded more without ever being grateful. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't crazy for walking away. Jake filed for divorce a few months later. Emma lost her mind when she found out we'd been talking. She accused me of ruining her marriage, which was hilarious, considering I wasn't the one treating my spouse like an ATM. Now, my relationship with my family is basically non-existent. And I'm okay with that. I still travel. I still spoil the people who actually appreciate it. But my days of bending over backward for people who don't care? Over. Fast forward another year, and my life was thriving without them. Emma and Jake's divorce had turned into a full-blown family circus. Apparently, Emma had assumed that Jake would just roll over and let her have everything, only to find out that he'd been quietly documenting all the ways she had taken advantage of him over the years. He fought back. Hard. The best part? He ended up with way more than she expected. The house? His. The savings? Split, but he got the bigger chunk because he'd been the primary earner. Emma? She had to move back in with my parents, who suddenly realized that their golden child wasn't so independent after all. Meanwhile, I was living my best life. No forced family obligations, no guilt-tripping, just complete freedom. I had reconnected with actual friends, taken more solo trips, and even started dating someone who appreciated my generosity instead of expecting it. Then, out of nowhere, my dad called me. It had been almost 2 years since I'd properly spoken to him. His voice was careful, like he wasn't sure if I'd even pick up. "Hey, kid," he started, way too casual. "Been a while." I let the silence stretch until he cleared his throat. "Listen, your mom and I were talking, and, we'd really like for you to come over. For dinner. Just to talk." I knew what this was. The attempt at reconciliation. Now that they finally felt my absence, I leaned back in my chair. "Why now?" He hesitated. "We miss you. And things have been rough." Translation: Emma has been a nightmare, and they finally realized they bet on the wrong horse. I wasn't about to make it easy for him. I thought I embarrassed the family. I thought I was vindictive and cruel. He exhaled sharply. "Look, we were wrong, okay? We handled things badly." I waited. Then he said something that almost made me laugh. "Emma's been struggling. She could really use some family support right now." "Ah. There it is," I smiled to myself. "Oh, I totally get it. But, see. I've learned my lesson about giving to people who don't appreciate it. Silence. Then I added, hope Daniel and Sophie got her something nice. And I hung up. I never went to that dinner. Never rekindled anything. Because here's the thing, they never missed me. They missed what I did for them. They missed my generosity, my effort, my willingness to sacrifice. They didn't want me back. They wanted their ATM back. So, I stayed gone. And I have never been happier. A few more years passed. At this point, I had completely moved on. My career was thriving, my friendships were solid, and I had built a life where I only surrounded myself with people who actually valued me. Then one day, completely out of the blue, I got a wedding invitation in the mail. From Emma. I stared at the envelope, half laughing, half shocked. After everything, she had the audacity to invite me to her wedding? Apparently, she had found someone new, a guy named Brian. I knew nothing about him, but I figured he was either blind to her ways or the type to put up with them. Either way, not my problem. What was my problem, though, was the handwritten note inside the invitation, family is forever. Let's start fresh. I'd love for you to be there, front row. Also, I know you love to travel, so if you're feeling generous, we're accepting honeymoon contributions instead of gifts, I nearly choked on my coffee. The audacity. After years of silence, after treating me like dirt, after only reaching out when they needed something, she was now expecting me to pay for her honeymoon? I took a deep breath and texted her. Got your invite. Just curious, why did you think I'd contribute to your honeymoon? She responded almost instantly. Emma because we're family? Because it's what you do? I figured enough time had passed for us to move on. Oh, I had moved on. Just not in the way she hoped. So I replied, you're right, Emma. It's what I used to do. But I actually learned something from all of this. I only give to people who appreciate it. You showed me a long time ago that you don't. Emma so you're seriously not coming? Nope. But tell Brian I said good luck. Then I blocked her. Again. From what I later heard through the grapevine, she lost it. My parents were deeply disappointed in me again, shocker, but it turns out Emma's new husband wasn't too thrilled either, because he started seeing the entitlement I had dealt with for years. Word got back to me that the marriage lasted less than 2 years. Meanwhile, I was out there living my best life, traveling the world, enjoying the company of people who actually valued me. And not once, did I regret cutting them off. Because at the end of the day, family isn't who you're born into. It's who you choose. And I chose myself. A few years passed, and honestly, life had never been better. I had peace, real friendships, and a future that wasn't weighed down by people who saw me as nothing more than a walking bank account. But then, because the universe loves a little drama, I got another unexpected message. This time, from my mom. Mom Hey sweetheart, it's been too long. I hope you're doing well. Can we please talk? I debated ignoring it. But something about her tone was different. It wasn't guilt-tripping. It wasn't demanding. It almost sounded tired. So, for the first time in years, I called her. She answered immediately, voice cracking. Oh honey, it's so good to hear your voice. I kept my guard up. What's going on? She hesitated. Then, it's your father. He had a stroke. I froze. For all the ways my dad had dismissed me, belittled me, and enabled Emma, I never wished him harm. And now, I was faced with a reality I hadn't prepared for. What if he didn't make it? What if my years of ignoring his calls were the last memories I had of him? Mom was crying now. Please. I know things have been hard, but can you come see him? And just like that, I was on a plane back home. ####. The return walking into that hospital room felt surreal. My father looked small. Weaker than I had ever seen him. The man who once scolded me for being too sensitive now struggled to speak, his eyes searching mine as if he didn't know where we stood anymore. I didn't know either. But I sat down next to him. And for the first time in years, there were no arguments. No accusations. Just silence. Finally, he rasped, "You okay?" I let out a breath. "Yeah, Dad. I'm okay." And that was the truth. The aftermath, he recovered, slowly. And for the first time, my parents truly listened when I spoke. They didn't ask for gifts. They didn't try to guilt-trip me. They just let me exist. And Emma? Well, she wasn't around much anymore. Her second marriage had crumbled. She had burned too many bridges. And now, she was the one being left behind. Did I forgive her? No. Some things can't be undone. But I no longer carried the anger with me. Because in the end, cutting my family off wasn't just about revenge or proving a point. It was about choosing peace. And I had finally found it. Months passed after my father's stroke, and something strange happened. I started to feel okay about being around my parents again. Not close, not how we used to be, but neutral. For the first time, they didn't treat me like an ATM. They didn't ask for anything. They just seemed grateful I was there. But Emma? Emma was a ghost. She had burned every bridge, used every last ounce of goodwill, and now had nothing left. Even my parents, who had spent years defending her, started to see her for what she was. And then, one day, I got one last message from her. It was long, rambling, and filled with excuses. How life had been unfair to her, how she felt abandoned, how she never meant to hurt me. And at the very end, the real reason for the message: "I know things got messy, but I'm in a tough spot right now. If you could just help me out a little, I'd really appreciate it." I read it twice, then shut my phone. No anger. No satisfaction. Just nothing. And that's when I knew I had one. Because Emma? She was still stuck in the same cycle. Still expecting people to save her. Still thinking she could guilt her way back into my life. But me? I had moved on. So I did the one thing she never expected. I didn't respond. I deleted the message. And then, I went back to living my life. The life I had built. The life without them. And let me tell you, it was the best decision I ever made.